All right, welcome to Lacrosse Talk PM. I'm Rick Solom on Zoom with me. If you're watching online here, we'll see how I produce this onto the internet. But Katie Kotlowski is a senior. Now, Katie, this is where I'm already hiccuping. That's what I want to say. She is a senior defense woman. Is that what we're doing? Is that how we say this in hockey?
You could say that, but you could just say
You just say defenseman? Is that what we're doing? That's what I
yeah.
wanted to say. Defense. I was all psyched to say defense woman. But Katie is she's lived in lacrosse for probably a half your life, I would say. But she plays for the Badgers women's hockey team. Badgers women hockey team is pretty good. They've been pretty good over the years. I don't know if anyone pays attention to Badgers women's hockey, but they're the number one ranked team. And if you look at the rankings, Katie, I don't know if you didn't even know your record, so I don't even know if you ever look at the rankings. But the Badgers are the number one ranked team in the nation. Their record is 21-1, and the next best teams are Ohio State 13-5-3, Minnesota 15-5-1, Minnesota Duluth is 13-5-2. So nobody's even close for record wise. So I don't know if you probably don't pay attention to your own record. Why would you look at anyone else's record? But that's where you guys stand. Are you, that's and Katie's been on the team since 2019, since the COVID year, so that she also has this unique, just era of living and going through sports in that regard. And then as she's excelled, you've excelled since you started playing at UW, I think. But you have two national titles and a runners up, and your national runner up one year.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining and taking some time here.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to be here. It's awesome. I miss lacrosse a lot, so this is great.
And we'll have to kind of explain. I made you explain the story before I brought you on, but
Yeah.
I'll do it real quick, and you tell me if I'm wrong. If I'll do this from memory, you were born in Milwaukee, then you moved to lacrosse at age 5, and you lived at lacrosse till you were about 13, and then you got into some hockey program in Warroad, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Or maybe you just moved up, but you live with like a host family in Warroad, Minnesota until your parents moved there. And so you became basically Canadian because I looked it up. Warroad, Minnesota is 10 miles from the Canada border, 130 miles from Winnipeg, or more importantly, 130 miles from the Canada Life Center where the Winnipeg Jets play. So I don't know if you're a Jets fan.
Yeah.
A good Jets. No? Oh, she's
There's
already.
a lot of Jet fans up there, I'll say that, but I've never been to a game. Been to
Oh,
Winnipeg.
really? You've
Yeah.
never been to a Jets game. Wow. Okay. Have you been to a Minnesota? Well, I was going to say the Stars game, but the Minnesota, their name escaped me.
The Wild?
Then, yeah, the Wild. I was
Yeah.
going to do North Stars, but they're not that anymore.
No, I've never been to a Wild game. I actually just recently went to the Blackhawks game. We went to Wrigley, so I can talk more about
Oh,
that.
for sure.
But
Yeah, and I feel like I jinxed you a little bit because I wanted to bring you on last week, but then I saw you were playing Ohio State, who's the number 2 team in the land, and I was like, well, if I bring her on beforehand, I'm not going to be able to talk to you about this experience playing Ohio State because not only did you play the number 2 ranked team in the nation, you played the number 2 ranked team in the nation at Wrigley Field last Saturday. So, I mean, I would say there's probably can you talk about the emotions there and how that went?
it was honestly so surreal, like going into the field and just like the environment of the outdoor like pond hockey like experience, like that's like what you do like growing up, especially like for me, Minnesota, like that was all we ever skated on. And so to do this like on a big field, like with a high competition and playing like a really good team, and it was just a really cool experience, and it was a great night. It was perfect. It wasn't too cold, but it wasn't like hot, and it was just awesome. So yeah, definitely a once in a lifetime experience, and you can't say, not a lot of girls can say that they've played on a baseball field before, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and of all the baseball fields, I think maybe Boston would be or the Yankees. I don't know. I feel like Wrigley would be the number 1 baseball field you want to play on.
Yeah, it was definitely cool because you could see like the old, like the original part of the stadium. You could tell like they had new and old parts of the stadium. So it was very original and classic, which was really cool.
What was the crowd like? Because you're 2 teams that aren't really home, right? Like you're playing Ohio State in Chicago. It must have been part of like a quad maybe or something like that. Was there other
Yeah.
teams playing too?
Yeah, so it was like all the Big Ten teams. So us in Ohio were the only girls to play on the Wrigley Field, which was really cool. And Michigan, Michigan State, our boys team was there.
I love that you say boys and girls. It's men's and
Yeah,
women. No, I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
that's right. I know. I'm
But
like
that's
from it,
cool.
so I think of the men's and or the boys and girls hockey tournament. But yeah, Ohio, yeah, a lot of Big Ten teams were there. So, but we
So
were the
this was
only.
like, yeah, you were the only women's team. And what was the crowd like? What was that atmosphere like?
It was so surreal. I mean, we already get like a lot of fans at our home ice here in Madison, and so you could tell a lot of them traveled for this game as it was like probably our biggest game of the year. But it was really cool because there's not a lot of Ohio fans in the area, so we were definitely the home team, and whenever Ohio had a chance on the screen, it was never in their favor. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and the only downfall there is you end up tying with Ohio State. So that was the like you beat Ohio State what the day before or 2 days before 6-0. So I was like, oh, they're gonna smoke them again. So but then I
I
think yeah, it's just probably a lot of emotion at that game, and both teams are gonna be
Yeah,
hyped to play.
you're right. Yeah, we kind of knew that they were going to come back like a little harder just because 6-0, like that's kind of tough. So, and we knew that they were going to give us their best game. I mean, everyone does. So, yeah, I mean, I wish it would have been a different outcome, but it ended up being a really fun game, and I'm glad that it was at least close. So,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. Katie Kotlowski, she plays for the Badgers women's hockey team. They're 21-1. They're the number one ranked team, even with a tie to the number two ranked team. They don't fall in the rankings because nobody's even close to this team. She has two national titles. I think you were runner up last year, right? And
Hmm.
you won national titles a couple other in 2021 and 2023. You won
Hmm.
national titles. So we'll get the rings out here in a minute. But we're going to take a break. We're going to continue this conversation with Katie Kotlowski after this. All right, welcome back to Lacrosse Talk PM. I'm Rick Solom in the studio. She's kind of in the studio with me. She's on Zoom with me. Katie Kotlowski. She is a senior defense woman. I'm going to keep doing that, Katie. I'm going to make it a thing for women's hockey and women's soccer. We'll say defense woman, even though it's kind of eye rolling. Uh,
Yeah.
she she plays for the Badgers, who are undoubtedly the number one ranked team in the nation. They have to be the favorites to win it all, even though you just tied with the number two ranked team. But we'll say Wrigley Field played a little Chicago jinx played its toll there. Your major, you already graduated, and
Yep.
you have a bachelor's degree in psychology,
Yep.
and then you're working on what's called sports leadership. Is that what you told me before the show? Sports
Yeah.
leadership. What is that?
Yeah. Yeah. This is the grad program, sports leadership. So it's just they made it for students that had that extra COVID year and needed like another year of eligibility. So it's just like kind of a gateway for athletes that had that extra year. But it's also kind of beneficial because it's very relatable as an athlete, and you can use it to your best knowledge as either a coach, or you can do sports management. So there's a lot of different avenues in what you can do with the sports leadership program, but very flexible and easy, or not easy, but just nice with scheduling and road trips. So
And I
yeah.
looked at your profile. If I remember right, you're like, would you call yourself like a straight A or honor roll? I don't even know what you call it in college anymore. Dean's List student every year
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, the dean's list, I think, has been almost every year. So it's been going pretty good, but yeah.
Is sports leadership like a master's program then, or do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and what's funny is you already got that too, didn't you? Didn't you tell me you got
Right.
that too? You have your master's in sports leadership. First of
Yep.
all, I had a conversation the other day with a dietitian, and we came to the conclusion. You know how you get your doctorate, and you're like you would be Dr. Kotlowski, right? Well, right now
Right.
you have your master's, so I could call you Master Kotlowski if you want me to for the rest of the show,
Master Kotlowski.
right? See,
Doctor.
that's what we should be calling people that get their master's degree, I think. Anyway, but like, okay, sports leadership. What's really funny though, guys listening, is she already got her master's, she's got her bachelor's. Now she's taking classes like independent fishing and underwater basket weaving just to keep the grades up and just to keep her eligibility through the next semester, right? Like, and then you're out of here, right?
I'm out.
Okay, so along with that, and we'll get into more hockey here in a minute, but I want to get this out of the way. Well, not really out of the way, but I think this is important
Yeah.
because this is kind of like your passion. First of all, you frequently volunteer with the Special Olympics, and I don't know if you do that in Madison. I don't know if you still come home to do that, or maybe you go way up north in Minnesota because you lived a lot of your life in Warroad, Minnesota as well, which is 10 miles, like I said before, from the Canada border, which maybe is why you're so into hockey. But along with that, you're a big mental health advocate. Is that something you foresee yourself doing down the road? And I talk about mental health a lot on my show, but in a way that's like, I don't think anyone's great at talking about mental health, because when we talk about lacrosse has a big homeless problem, and we talk about, well, a lot of those people need mental health. And then it's like, well, what does that mean? And beyond that, I don't think anyone has any great answers except really, really people that are experts at it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I do have a big background with it just as an athlete, because I feel like as athletes you're seen as physically like strong, and there's no like mess ups, there's no mistakes, but like there's so much more behind it as like an athlete and a person, just a human being. And so mentally it can, that's life. Like mentally that it's you face battles and you learn how to overcome like adversity and stuff like that. But for me, like mental health has taken a really big part of my college career. Moving out from high school, I've learned a lot about how to cope with different emotions as an athlete, often off the ice as well. I mean, it applies to all aspects of life. So, yeah, mental health is very important to me. But here, I actually, with the Special Olympics that was mentioned, I don't know where that was that you saw the special. Did I have that on my open doors or something?
It was in one of your profiles too. And
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
sure.
yeah, I used to do that back in Warroad, but I've recently been a part of a therapeutic horseback riding program here for kids with disabilities, and they also have like a mental health program. So it's a therapy for physical, cognitive, and all abilities, and essentially that's just an environment that can improve one's health, either mentally, physically, and it's just kind of grasping that connection with living on the farm life and the connection with animals and horses themselves. It's a very cool and unique organization, and so I've been a big part of that the past like almost 2 years now. So that's been really cool. And another area that I've been a part of as well, I did an internship probably 2 years ago around the same time when I started at Three Gates. It was this sled hockey team. It was actually really cool. I was able to coach them and get to know how they like skate, and they move it's such a different game, but it's the same game, and it's really cool because it takes a lot physically and mentally, and to learn that aspect and perspective was really cool. And so yeah, so I've been a part of a lot of different organizations and groups of people, and it's been a really cool experience, and to be able to shed light on my experience with mental health, and how I can impact others in a similar way has been really, really cool to be able to provide. So
Are you
yeah.
are you a big advocate for therapy horses? And then can you bring them then to the game? You just have your therapy horse with you. Now I have to make a joke. I just have to do it. I'm gonna bring my therapy horse on the plane on this road trip, guys. Don't mind him. He's just gonna take up the whole aisle.
Just need this aisle for bathroom for my horse. But yeah.
Lacrosse has something like this. It's called Horse Sense. I don't know if you know about that group, but if you ever, my friend works there, so if you ever want to get hooked up with Horse Sense in Lacrosse, they're in like Westby or the Westby area, but just kind of like they're in Lacrosse, but they're like out in the bluffs, like kind of out of there. But yeah, if you're ever back in town, you wanna hook up and see what they're about. I got a friend that works there too,
I
so
definitely would. That sounds awesome.
just throwing it there. I think they help veterans a lot and stuff like that. So
Okay.
I'm talking to Katie Kotlowski. She is a senior defense woman on the Badgers, the number one ranked Badgers hockey team. They're 21-1 on the season. And let's see here. I want to talk about so many things, but how did you get into hockey? Because you were telling me you at 13 or something like that, you moved to Warroad, Minnesota. You left your parents and your siblings, right? Like to do this. And was this all hockey related?
Yeah, so I grew up playing a lot of different sports. I even played basketball, and so that's the same season as hockey. And so when I played those two sports, I had to pick one because it was a lot. I mean, I'd go from a hockey game and I had to get undressed like really fast and then go to a basketball game. And so it was just a lot. So then I decided
Mhm.
that hockey was my sport. And so me and my siblings all were in hockey, and being the oldest, it was really fun to pave that path for them. And my dad was really into hockey, so
Where did
he
you
would
play
build
hockey in the lacrosse area? Where were you playing?
um, the Green Island. So
Green Island.
shout out,
Okay. Yep.
yeah, I played on the boys team there growing up. They didn't have a girls team, so those boys have definitely helped me get where I am today. So shout out to them and just that whole organization. Um, just super super awesome just to look back and to see where I am now, because playing here as a Badger has always been like my number one goal, and so I still pinch myself to just even know that I get to wear the jersey and represent everyone that has helped me get here, and just my hockey career in general. But anyway, sorry, I could talk about that forever. I'm thankful for those boys. So yeah, so I played boys hockey. They didn't have a girls team, so then I went to Toma, played there for a year for the 12U team. And after that, I did that for a year. And when I was 13, I decided I wanted to move to Minnesota to play hockey. So that was like way up north, like 6 miles from the border, like you mentioned. So not really Minnesota, like Canada.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. For sure.
so yeah, moved up there, a little bit of change in weather, very cold up there. Anyway, so yeah, moved up there. I knew a family that um billet or they were like my host family, so that they're like my second family still. Like they'll always be a big part of my life, and um very thankful for them. And yeah, so I lived there when I was 13 for about 4 years before my family moved up. So my family stayed in La Crosse while I was up in Minnesota playing hockey for their program.
And then
And
your family finally moved up to Warroad, and
yeah,
then you went, I'm going to move down to Madison, guys, and go down.
I know we always joke about that because they come up there and then they're there with me for about a year and a half, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be going back down. So yeah, so now I'm here in Madison, and my family actually just moved back to Wisconsin 2 years ago now. So they're in Stevens Point, and um,
Okay. Yeah, that's
so
not far at all. I was going to say you could have went to Minnesota Duluth. I don't know how far away that is. They're ranked fourth in the nation, or you could have
yeah,
been a Gopher. But no, you of course you had Wisconsin
so,
roots. You were going to play for the Badgers.
yeah,
Um,
we have Gophers here. I mean, North Dakota was an option. That was only 3 hours from Warroad. So, but then their program shut down.
oh well, good thing you didn't do that. Also, if you have a chance to play for the Badgers, when you were trying to go play for them, they were the number one ranked team. So was it hard to get on this team? And you must have been just a phenom.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the day I committed. It was ecstatic and just so like crazy to look back on. But yeah, I was in 10th grade when it happened. They used to recruit like at a younger level until they changed like the rules and stuff. And so yeah, I was in 10th grade. We're on our way to a hockey game, and I got the call, and this was the one that I was waiting for. I've been talking to like other schools, and I was just waiting out and holding on. I was like, I'm just gonna keep my options open, but I was really waiting for Wisconsin. So when I got that call, I knew it right away. And the coach on the phone, he's like, "Are you like?" And I like, he's like, "So like, we're gonna offer you like this scholarship, and like, we'd really love to have you, but like, we want you to come visit campus and da da da, and let your parents know, and you can get back to us whenever." And then right away, I was just like, "Yes!" Like I
Right?
just
You're like,
no
I don't have to
patience.
think about
Like,
it.
no, and he's like, "What? Like, are you sure? Like, you haven't even seen the campus?" I was like, "I grew up at that campus. Like, I know I want to go." Like, it was like immediate yes. So, yeah, ever since then, I haven't looked back, and it's been, like I said, so surreal. So,
For sure. Katie
mhm.
Kotlowski, she is a starting defense woman for the Badgers women's hockey team. She's been starting all 4 years of her career, 5 years of your career, I should say, because there was that COVID year. Won titles in 2021 and 2023 and was second place last year. She's going to want to change that this coming year. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in a minute. Hopefully, this. All right, welcome back to Lacrosse Talk PM. I'm Rick Solom on the phone on Zoom with me. On screen with me is Katie Kotlowski. She's a senior defense woman on the Madison on the UW Badgers women's hockey team. We were just talking over the break a little bit about. Okay, so again, I want to reset all this. You've been playing every year of your career except the COVID year, which didn't. You were redshirt. So this is your 5th year playing, right? And you've been on the team for 6 years, but you've been a starter for all 5 years, right? Or a key player?
I'd say first 3, like I was starter, and I'd say like I rotate between second and third pair, but still get a good shift. So
okay, so so your stats, you're a defensive player, so you're not going to have like crazy stats. I don't know, and I a lot of times I just want to go to Happy Gilmore and all the. I don't know if Happy Gilmore is a movie that hockey players all must watch because it's kind of a hockey/golf movie. Yeah. But you have 4 goals your first year. 4 goals, 7 assists, a goal and 6 assists the next year, 4 goals and 7 assists last year. This year, you haven't gotten a goal yet. Is that something you like itch to do, or does it not matter?
I know. I really want to get one. Like thought I would have had one already, but it's coming. I can feel it.
And you don't even realize it. Did I just break news for you? You have 0 goals and 6 assists this year?
No, I knew that.
You knew that. I will say this too. You're tied for 9th on the team in penalties. As a defensive player, I feel like you should be higher on the team in penalty minutes. What's going on there?
Yeah, it depends on what team you're playing. But I will say, not a lot of people know this, but I got kicked out of a game against Ohio. So that was probably the highlight of my penalty career. So
okay, so there is a little Happy Gilmore in you.
Yeah.
You didn't try to take your skate off and stab the person or anything, though. Huh?
No, but I definitely like blacked out when it happened, and I had no idea. My coaches were like, "What just like?" When they called the penalty on us, and I was just like sitting there, I was like, "Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit!" Like I knew it was like me, and they were like, "Who got the penalty?" And it was funny.
Well, now you have me. Now you have to have me. I have to bleep stuff out now. Do you understand?
I know.
I got to take a mental note of that time. Anyway, but what happened? So you got penalty called on you, or your team got a penalty, and you just went crazy?
Yeah, no. They called the penalty on me, but Ohio's rink is like not the greatest rink, so our bench, like the coaches can't see like the corner that it happened in. Mm-hmm. So when it happened, and then they called the penalty on us because they had a penalty as well, but then they were like thrown off because they're like, "Who got a penalty?" And I'm just sitting on the bench, and I'm like, "Oh God, like that's me, like it's for sure me." Mm-hmm. And so then I got pulled off the bench, and they're like, "Oh, okay." And so they weren't very happy, but.
This sounds all very confusing. How did that lead to you getting kicked out of the game?
Well, maybe that was another game.
You said you blacked out, so this is going to be hard for you to remember, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. No, okay, wait. Now that I think of it, I was never sent to the bench. I was just sent straight out.
Yeah.
Yeah, to the penalty box.
The hook, huh?
I didn't even make it in the box. I was just out.
What did you do?
Well, the girl went at my captain, and I did not like that. And so I just went at her, and then the rest I don't really remember.
Okay. Fair enough. And then you got the old get him out of here to the locker room. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, you don't have a lot of penalty minutes, but is women's hockey a little bit different game where there's not as many penalties, or is it just something that I'm not paying attention to, or is it pretty physical? Is it a pretty physical game?
I would say, yeah, like everybody gives us their best game. I feel like we always have a target on our back, so it can always get pretty chippy, but I would say the biggest physical games are like for sure Ohio and Minnesota. Those get pretty rowdy. So yeah, I feel like you can get away with a lot more in women's hockey. Because obviously
you can get away with a lot more. Okay.
Yeah, like there's no checking, but yeah, you still can get away with stuff if you're good at it. So
you keep saying Ohio, but you mean Ohio State? Is that when you say Ohio?
Yeah, Ohio.
Okay, because there's like Miami of Ohio. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, my bad.
Well, as long as I got you in this mindset of like getting kicked out of games and playing defense and getting penalty minutes and stuff like that, even though you don't have enough, I think, for a defensive player. You play in Madison. You're the number 1 ranked team. Nobody's even close to you in the rankings. If you look at the records, the Badgers are 21-1, and you've been a 4-year starter. You guys have 2 titles in the past 3 years, and you're runner up the other year in the past 4 years. Since 2021, you have titles in 2021 and 2023, and you were runners up last year. And yet all the attention, I think, and when it comes to women's sports, goes to the Badgers volleyball team. And well, how do you feel about that?
It gets me going, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I do love watching them. Like I used to play volleyball, so I love watching it, but when people say Wisconsin's a volleyball school, that kind of twists my gears a little bit. So, it was cool to see that they won their first national championship like ever, but like we have seven and I got two of them. So
Look at that.
It gets me going. That's for sure.
For those of you listening on the radio, she just held up the national championship rings to the camera to show everybody. But you pulled them down. You were being a little humble there. You can hold them up. Those things are huge.
I know. Well, the first one, oh gosh, it's stuck on. I haven't put it on in a while. But oh my gosh. The first one from 2021, they like messed up our ring. So we got two. So I actually gave the first one that we got from my dad. But you can see, I don't know, is it like focused? But we have like the score, like our record from that year.
Sure. For everybody listening, she's showing me the ring here and showing everybody on the ring on Zoom.
Oh, okay, I see. So I'm not actually like on the thing, but yeah.
You are to some people, but to other people, you're like, I will post this later, so everybody will be able to see later if they want to go on the website. And she's also the big gaudy ring that she has from 2023. She can't get off her finger, guys. Oh, she just ran. You almost injured yourself for the play. You don't break your finger.
I know. So yeah, this one was like our coach wanted it to be like wearable.
Yeah.
And like we were gonna wear it, but like it's kind of small. So then we were like, we want bigger. So we got like the biggest size possible.
She's holding up a gigantic ring.
Yeah.
If you're going to win a national championship ring, as weird as it is that we do rings anyway, you might as well have the biggest, gaudiest, goofiest looking thing ever because you're just going to hang it somewhere or put it on a mantle or something.
I know. We told our coach, she's like, well, we want you guys to have like a wearable one. I'm like, regardless, we're going to wear it. Like, if it's big, like, let it be big. Like, so that's why we went big this time. But this one's really cool. So
you played at Wrigley Field. We talked about this earlier, but you played at Wrigley Field against Ohio State. So the number 2 and number 1, you guys are number 1 ranked teams in the nation played on that court or on the ice there on the baseball field, whatever you want to call it. It's definitely not a court. It's a field or it's a rink. Either one of those. But if you want to, like, if we do this battle with the volleyball team, the Badgers volleyball team, how are the crowds for your games versus the crowds for their games?
I would say they definitely are in the Kohl Center or just in general.
Well, just wherever you want to go here, just pick the best atmosphere. I would say.
Okay. Yeah. I would say, well, they definitely have a bigger like field house, so they have a little bit more room for more people. But for us at our rink, it's cool that we have like, a women's ice rink, and we don't share with like the men's. Like it's like our rink, which is super cool. But yeah, you go to like different like hockey games that we'll travel and we still have more fans than like the home team. So our fans are like super awesome. And in comparison to volleyball, I would say ours are better, even though there's not as much. I think ours are way more in tune and honestly, probably some of them go to both games between us and volleyball. So we've always had the best fans and it's definitely given us an advantage at home when playing. So, I would say.
So Katie Kotlowski is a defensive, a senior. She's a senior on the team. This is her last season. She's a defense woman. She plays defense. And when you play other teams, so you talk about your home crowd, and you talked about how you get the opponent's best game, right? Because you're the champions, you're the runners up last year. Everyone's going to come at you. What about the crowds on the road? Who has the best, toughest crowd? Is it the further north you go, the closer to Canada you go, is the better the hockey crowd?
Yeah, no, I would say probably Minnesota. I would say that one is probably where we get the most hate. Ohio, their rink is so small. They have one side of bleachers, so they barely get any fans. So it's just kind of funny. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really affect us. So, but Minnesota for sure, I would say, is when it gets pretty heated. So.
Over your career now, I want to bring up basketball a little bit. Caitlin Clark is not somebody who you don't know about, right? Like that's
yeah, no, I know her. Yeah.
Well, with her rise through Iowa and then going to the WNBA and just all the attention she has brought, have you seen a change in women's sports and women's hockey over this last 4 years, where you guys get a lot more attention and maybe more respect?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I definitely would say that there's been a great change in women's hockey, especially now with the PWHL. It's like the NHL, but for the women. So they have their own professional league now. I think they have 6 teams and they're going to be expanding. So it's really cool to see how that's evolving because, growing up, there's always um, not the expectation, but the dream of playing after like high school, and then after high school it's college, and after college it's like the NHL. But then like for women's, like we didn't have that growing up, so it's really cool to see how it's evolved in a way where girls have that to look forward to at the youth level and to keep excelling. So it's really cool to see how it's changed for women and the many opportunities that we are given. And
Well, that was I was going to say. You say the level, you mean the adult level, you mean the pro
yeah,
level, and
yeah.
that was my next thing. Is as you're a 5-year starter on the Badgers playing defense, a team that's won multiple national titles. As you flash the rings to us, I don't know what your second place ring. I don't even know what you get for second place, but yeah, do you have aspirations of continuing this? And do you have
Yeah.
and how does that work? Do teams reach out? Is there do you get an agent, or have you thought about any of this yet? You must.
Yeah, no, I definitely have. I mean, now that my 6 year is actually here and I have to think about being somewhere else other than Madison, it's kind of scary. But yeah, no, for the professional league, they have the PWHL, and they've also had they've had this for a while, but out in like Europe they have professional leagues, and so I have some old teammates that play out there. Um, but yeah, essentially you get an agent or you can be a free agent, and coaches or scouts like reach out to you and you can try out for the camp and like enlist. I don't know like the full details on it, but like that's the gist of it. And definitely I've looked more towards Europe. I think that would be a really cool opportunity to travel and play in a different part of the world. And so yeah, I've talked to a few um, agents about potentially playing in Sweden or um, Switzerland. So that's been really cool to think about and to
Yeah,
have
that sounds
options.
terrible. Who'd want to do that? Right. You got
Right.
advantage. You definitely got to take advantage. As great as it would be to play in a U.S. league, and I know volleyball is starting a professional U.S. league too. And I always think
Right.
it's funny how we don't have these things. The WNBA has been around for 20 years, and
Mhm.
it's only really starting to get a foothold. And it took Caitlin Clark, who does these amazing things
Right.
on the court, to kind of like help that along.
Right.
Women's sports not doing that, but on the flip side, you'd be like, I kind of want to go overseas and play, and then also just take advantage of being overseas and
Mhm.
experiencing all that. I mean,
Right.
some of our mutual friends that live here in La Crosse are kind of doing that right now.
Yes, yeah. I mean, just to see that, it would be cool to like play a sport in a different part of the world and just experience that and enjoy it for what it is and the places it can take you. And that's the fun of it. And I think that'd be really cool to experience. But yeah, I've had many thoughts about it back and forth if I should stay or if I should go. And, being far from family again, like that's another sacrifice. Like, I haven't been with my family my whole life, really. I mean, well, not my whole life, but
Well,
given
you
that
said they live in Stevens Point. They can just you just
yeah, yeah.
there.
Well, they're 2 hours now. They're not 10 hours away anymore.
Well,
But
here's the thing: is you how old are your brothers? Like, where your brothers and sisters?
yeah, my brother's 21. He's in like Minneapolis, and then my younger sister, she's 17, so she's a senior in high school. So
Okay.
she's the last one.
Well, you know what they're gonna want to do, and your parents, they're gonna want to come visit you in another
Oh,
country. So
I know.
there's
My told me she's like, I'll be your personal cook if you go out there. I was like, okay.
yeah, that works. Before I let you go, we talk about you winning 2 national titles for the Badgers women's hockey team. Can you just I feel like I need to ask you what that experience was like. I wrote down the games. If I Where did I write those down? But I think you beat Ohio State 1-0 for one of the titles, and they beat you 1-0 for their title, and then the other game, you won 2-1 in overtime against Northeastern. So I don't know, was one of these more memorable than the other, and just what was it like?
Yeah. No, I would say the first year was really cool because I've never won a championship before. And, in high school, there's the Minnesota State tournament, which was we made it all 4 years that I was in high school. So, and we always came runner up, and to play at like a bigger stadium and playing for a bigger purpose and big team is really cool to win it all in that aspect. And yeah, I just like looking back, it gives me chills because it's just like it didn't feel real. It was like hard to like bring in the emotions, but yeah, it was obviously a really, really fun time, but it was also hard because it was during COVID. So we couldn't have like a whole lot of like fans and like that kind of atmosphere. So it was still like everybody had to have certain protocols and masks and everything. So it was still a little off, but I mean, I had never experienced a championship before. So for me, it was still really cool.
Mhm.
But there were other girls in the team that have had championships prior to that, and so listening to their stories of their experience was a little bit different, but I mean, like I said, like it was still really cool otherwise. And then the last year when we or
Well,
2 years
and
ago.
Katie, I'll just say you won that game in Erie, Pennsylvania, against a team
Mhm.
called Northeastern. So I don't even. It doesn't even sound like a college sometimes. You won 2-1 in
Yeah,
overtime, which is amazing. But then in,
yeah.
in 2023, you beat Ohio State. You play in
Mhm.
Duluth, which is pretty close to pretty close
Right.
to Canada also, but kind of
Yeah,
closer to home, I would say. And you win 1-0 against probably a big rival of yours.
yeah. No, yeah, I would definitely say like the 2023 year is probably the better year. Because we were kind of faced as, we were seen as the underdogs that year. And so we were kind of ranked lower seed going into playoffs. And usually we're not like that low in the rankings. So we knew that we had a lot of competition coming towards us because it wasn't going to be an easy route. We probably had like the hardest route like anybody could ever have faced that year. And so we played, I think it was Colgate our first game, and they were like top three, beat them. Then we played Minnesota, and they were number 2 in the nation. Because I think at this time we were like number 4 or 5, like we were low. Like we had like a losing streak, like a 6-game losing streak that year, and I was like, this is like unheard of for us. So it was a very like weird season, but yeah, we were the underdogs and we played Minnesota and we beat them. And then when we went to Ohio, we were ready to go. Like to even be at that championship game was like we didn't think like given the outcomes and just the route that we had to make it at that point, it was like it was go time. And so it was really cool to see how we bounced back and kind of prove people wrong given that underdog spot, and just took full advantage of it where we just had nothing to lose. So it was really cool to win that year. I think that was my favorite for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I know these games were like 1-0 and 2-1, and you play
Mhm.
defense. I didn't look at the box scores of these games, so I don't think you would have
Mhm.
scored a goal. But do you have a memorable moment? Did you body check some chick into the? Do you have a memorable moment from any of these games?
I do, yeah. I would say the second time that I won in 2023, I would say there was a 2-on-1 play, and they were coming down on our end, and the girl took the puck wide and I had to slide because they were gonna like pass it across, and so I slid so that they couldn't pass it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I do remember that. That was pretty cool.
Nice.
Um,
You should have that just like on your social media page or something like that.
just find
There's
that.
got to be video of it somewhere. You should clip it
There
out, right?
definitely is. I think my mom has it. But yeah,
All right. Well, I appreciate you taking so much time out to talk with us and tell us about your experience. And last thing, just real quick. I mean,
yeah.
is the Olympics a thing that you could try out for? I mean, that's top of the ladder when it comes to women's hockey. Is
I
that a thought ever?
I mean, it definitely used to be. I don't think it is now. I mean, things could change, but um, yeah.
It's
I
like you have to get invited to that, right?
Yeah, you have to get invited, and it's a lot mentally,
Yeah, you need more
physically.
penalty minutes. You need at
I
least
need
you'll.
to back those up first.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you go, and thanks a lot for hanging out. Appreciate it. It was
Yeah,
really fun.
yeah, no, this is great. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, that's Katie Kotlowski. She's a senior defense woman for the Badgers, women's #1 ranked hockey team. They're 21-1, and yeah, go check her out. Go check out her page because you can. I didn't say this, but if you want Katie to post about you or something like that, you can go to her page and get some endorsements from her. So that's pretty cool. So all right, we're gonna take a break. I'll wrap up when we come back.